Welcome back to the Nerdy Grail and welcome to a brand new movie franchise discussion here on the channel. Yes, it's been quite a while actually since I've done a movie franchise discussion. I think the last one I did might have been the Kung Fu Panda franchise, which was months and months and months ago. But I thought, since within the last fortnight we did get the release of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which I gave a review on my channel. So if you'd like to check out my full thoughts on that movie, I'll leave a link down below for you to check out my review on that movie. I wanted to discuss it a little bit more because I've had a lot more time to reflect upon that movie. And I wanted to talk about, the movie franchise as a whole. Now, I also done movie franchise discussions on like Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that in the past, where I've gone through all the different movies, given you brief little reviews, where I think they went right, where I think they went wrong, some positives, negatives, and gave you my overall thoughts. And I thought I would do the same thing for the Mario franchise. We've had 3 movies in particular that I'm going to be covering in today's video. I'm going to be covering the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, and also Dennis Hopper as well. So we're going to be discussing that one in today's video as well. I'm also going to be obviously talking about the first of the Super Mario Bros. Movies that came out 3 years ago now, back in 2023. And of course, I'm obviously going to be talking about the Super Mario Galaxy movie and where I think the franchise is going to go from there, and give you a bit of an updated thought on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So, sit back, relax, as we explore galaxies, travel to the Mushroom Kingdom, and head to Brooklyn, as I describe the Mario movie franchise, starting with the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game.
Starting off this Mario movie franchise discussion, we are, of course, going to start with the infamous Super Mario Bros. Movie, the original motion picture, which I also do have the limited edition, Steelbook edition of, starring Bob Hoskins as Mario, John Leguizamo as Luigi, and Dennis Hopper as King Koopa, which came out in 1993. Now, this is what I would like to call a guilty pleasure movie. It was one of the first video game movies to actually come out. And so it had a lot of shoes to fill, and obviously at the time there wasn't an awful lot of Mario games out, so they didn't all have an awful lot of material to work with this movie. So the fact they were able to get a plot out, I thought was really, really interesting. Now, the original release date of this, it had 2 separate ones depending on whether you were in the US or the UK and so forth. So it came out on the 28th of May 1993 in the US, and on July 9th 1993 for us over here in the UK, and was directed by Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jenkel, and has a runtime of roughly 104 minutes, so roughly about an hour and 44 minutes, so a decent length runtime. Like I said, considering it was one of the first video game franchise movies to come out, and had a budget that roughly came to about $48 million and made $38.9 million roughly at the box office. So what was this movie about? Well, this is about Brooklyn plumbers, Mario and Luigi, who discover a parallel world where the meteorite that supposedly wiped out all the dinosaurs actually didn't wipe out the dinosaurs, and instead it caused the real world and the dino world to separate and become 2 separate worlds. And so they meet up with new character Daisy, who gets kidnapped by Iggy and Spike, and taken to the Mushroom Kingdom, and they have to travel to the Mushroom Kingdom in order to save Daisy and defeat King Koopa, played by Dennis Hopper, who's planning on merging the 2 universes back together again, and then ruling the world up on high. Now, if you're wondering why I'm looking over here a little bit, it's because I got lots of notes about the positives and the negatives of this movie, so I'm just checking my notes. If you see me looking and darting over, it's because I'm just checking my notes. But overall, I would say, look, is it a great movie? No. Is it a bad movie? I also would say no. Like, it is a fun movie. You could do lots of fun drinking games to this, or just to watch it with some friends. I would definitely say you would have a really good time in watching this movie. It's really, really funny. The effects are absolutely wild. The decisions that they make in terms of the casting choices and the characters that they include are really weird. The fact that Daisy was the one used rather than Peach or Princess Toadstool I thought was an interesting choice. They do have Yoshi, but Yoshi in this is more or less a regular dinosaur. The Goombas are some of the weirdest design creatures I've ever seen. They do have like Toad and Big Bertha. They have a lot of Mario characters, but whether you can truly recognize them or not, I don't know. You find out the identities of Mario and Luigi, that Mario is called Mario Mario and Luigi is called Luigi Mario. Still one of my favourite things of all time. I think that's hilarious. But yeah, the pacing of the movie's pretty good. There's some funny quotes. I think Bob Hoskins does a fantastic job as Mario, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in terms of the acting, which I will get into when it comes to the pros and the cons. But yeah, speaking of the pros and cons, what is some of the positives, shall we say, about Super Mario Bros., the original motion picture? Well, I would say that, like I said, the lead actors of Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo are fantastic. I think their chemistry together on screen is absolutely brilliant. But I think it's really funny when you look at some of the behind-the-scenes stuff and look into some articles, because you find out that not only did the actors actually, especially Bob Hoskins, not actually have the best time when it came to recording this movie, but apparently they were wasted for quite a lot of it, so they were actually drunk for a lot of it, and you could probably tell, and I think that is even more hilarious when you watch the movie. So I will say the acting is quite funny. Dennis Hopper, like I said, as King Koopa, is also really, really good. Samantha Mathis as Daisy, I think is quite a nice, good female lead protagonist as well. You know, there is some really good characters in this movie. I do wish that my boy Yoshi looked a little bit more like the Yoshi I know and love, but hey-ho, I can't deny. Still fun and still great to see my guy Yoshi there. I would say it's got really unique interpretations. You know, I think the outfits that they use for Mario and Luigi, even though they're not pinpoint accurate to the games, I'd say they're pretty damn close, especially since this was the first live-action adaptation of it. So you can recognize them as Mario and Luigi. I think some of the others, you can see little bombs and bullet bills, and they actually do look like what they look like in the actual video games as well, so I thought that was quite nice. Yeah, like I said, things like Yoshi and the Goombas, and even Koopa to a degree, yeah, look really weird, and it's got that 90s CGI look to it, which does look a bit campy at times as well, but I think that gives it a bit of a charm and a unique, strange appeal to it using the practical effects that they have. But also at the same time, there are obviously some negatives about it. So obviously, production behind the scenes and the actual plot of it, you know, it suffered numerous different rewrites. The plot is a little bit disjointed. Like, it seems like a cohesive plot, but it does fall off about halfway through, and you go on these weird tangents. And then it feels like a very quick to the end final battle, with some interesting choices in terms of visuals. But also then, like I said, the designs of some of the characters are a little bit off and a bit weird, and it misinterprets what the character's actually supposed to be. I don't like what they did to Toad. And obviously it was technically a commercial failure, as it didn't fully make back the budget. And also the cast, like I said, behind the scenes, if you watch and see any interviews with Bob Hoskins, he famously says that it was really difficult to work on, and it was one of the biggest disappointments and worst jobs he's ever had. So, you know, despite him being a cult classic character in the movie, he didn't have a massive enjoyment of the movie itself, which is a shame, because I would have loved to have seen a sequel, which I think they did try to do like a comic book adaptation many, many, many years later to try and finish it, but they never ended up getting round to it. But yeah, it is a very unique, bizarre movie. What would I rate it out of 10? I would probably give this one maybe a 6 out of 10. You know, maybe a 6.5 if I'm being generous. So probably a 6 out of 10. Because I don't think it's absolutely terrible. I think there is some guilty pleasure enjoyment to be had out of it. But obviously, if you're looking for true to form Mario, it's probably not the best movie for you. But now we're going to move on up into 2023 and have a little look at the first of the Super Mario Bros. Movies. Okay, so then moving on into 2023, we have the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I remember at the time had such big controversy, and there was loads of people online talking about it, mostly to do with the cast. Nothing to do visually of how the characters looked. A lot of people agreed that the characters actually looked really true to form, and that is one of the positives that I will talk about in regards to this movie, is how the characters look, and that their designs are practically flawless in terms of the characters they're trying to interpret on the screen. But it was the casting choices of the Super Mario Bros. Movie that really got under people's skin, especially the voice acting cast choice for Chris Pratt as Mario. People have grown a lot to Chris Pratt now as Mario, but back when this movie first came out, he was a laughing stock in terms of the internet, and there was memes galore by it, which I think is quite sad, because he does do a really, really good job. And a lot of people were surprised that Charles Martinet didn't come back to voice Mario in this, but Charles Martinet does actually appear in this movie for a couple of final voice acting roles. So this movie came out on the 5th of April 2023, and it has a runtime of 92 minutes, or about an hour and 32 minutes. So it's shorter than the 1993 movie. It is actually the shortest of the 3 Mario movies that I'm going to be talking about. It had a budget of $100 million roughly, and has made over $1.3 billion. It is highly successful, and a sequel was practically greenlit from the get-go because of how well it did. Now it's got a premise of, you've got the 2 Brooklyn plumbers again. You've got Mario and Luigi, who, when they're going to fix a drain at a local house, an apartment within the city, they get sucked into a warp pipe, separated into 2 different areas, and basically Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, teams up with Princess Peach, who they go on a quest teaming up with Toad and Donkey Kong in order to take down Bowser, who's actually planning on marrying Princess Peach in order to take over and rule the Mushroom Kingdom and conquer the world. And also at the same time, Mario tries to train himself up in order to rescue his brother Luigi. Fairly simple plot, but a good one for a movie that does have really good pace, and you really get to learn the lore and things about the Mario franchise, and you get to learn more about the Mario Brothers family backgrounds from the start in Brooklyn, and where the final confrontation takes place back in Brooklyn outside of the Mushroom Kingdom. So like I said, casting wise, you've obviously got Chris Pratt as Mario, you've got Charlie Day as Luigi, and I think they work really well together. You've got Jack Black obviously as Bowser, which obviously this movie also heralded the song Peaches. Jack Black's song that he sang to Princess Peach, which went absolutely wild on the internet and sold so many copies, and we just couldn't believe it at the time. So it was hilarious. You got Seth Rogen, who does the voice of Donkey Kong. You got Anya Taylor-Joy, who does the voice of Princess Peach. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek. And obviously Charles Martinet does actually do a couple of voice acting roles within this. He plays 2 different characters. He plays Mario and Luigi's father, but also Giuseppe, who's one of the Brooklyn citizens who, when Mario and Luigi at the start of the movie are showing off their little advertisement they've done, he's playing one of the old classic video games behind them and gives them a comment and does the classic wahoo jump. So it's quite nice to hear him for one last time. And I will say that it is a beautiful movie, and the music and all is great, but I'm going to get into that now with the positives and the negatives. I would say with the positives, the first thing is the stunning animation. So this is actually produced by Illumination, who do like Despicable Me and stuff like that, the Minions movies. And it's really praised because it's got really bright, really vibrant, very detailed animation, and it does capture the aesthetics of the games perfectly. You can identify practically every single item in this movie and every single character. Like, you know that's Mario, you know that's Luigi, you know that's a fire flower, you know that's a piranha plant, you know that's a warp pipe, you know that's a question block. You know, you're able to identify things because they really do so much to cater to the long-term fans. Very nostalgic, so many Easter eggs, visually, auditory ones through music references, familiar sites and locations from TV shows and different video games. Really celebrates the history of this Nintendo property. Jack Black as Bowser, I think, is a fantastic casting choice, and he does well in the Galaxy movie as well, but I'll talk about that when we get to Galaxy. And his musical performance is just absolutely stunning. He's hilarious. He's got great humour, great charisma, fantastic voice acting role there from Jack Black. Everyone in this movie does really, really well. There's lots of famous action sequences that are quite faithful. They pay homage to like Rainbow Road, the original Donkey Kong games. You know, there's lots of 2D platforming, which is really, really nice. They don't just go down the 3D route. So I think they are really faithful to the game's energy, and you can see that through the characters and through the movement. So I think it's done really, really well. And yeah, it's just a fun, family-friendly adventure that you know you're going to have a good time with when you go to the cinema, or even if you buy it physically like I have, which I've got the 4K copy, and I also got the 4K Steelbook behind me as well. But we do have to talk a little bit about some negatives. Like, it's not massively negative, but I will say that on the flip side, it does obviously over-rely on the nostalgia and the Easter eggs for the movie at the expense of the fact that the plot, like I said, is a little bit thin. There is a plot line there, but it does feel a little bit jumbled, and there's like the pacing does feel off at times because of that, because they sort of got to get to the big climax because they don't have enough to fill the gap, because they're just using visual Easter eggs just to tide you over until the next major scene. So it's quite over-reliant on nostalgia. And the character development, even though it's not terrible, I definitely think it's not in its strongest element here. Like, you don't see a lot of character arcs go on in this particular movie. Especially with like Mario. There's just not enough room for certain characters to grow. I don't know whether that's to do with screen time or just, like I said, just the over-reliance on the nostalgia Easter eggs, which I do like the Easter eggs, don't get me wrong, I think it's really good. But I can't deny, I think the plot needs to be a little bit thicker. It does feel a little bit thin to me. But overall, fantastic movie. And what would I rate it out of 10? I'd give the Super Mario Brothers movie an 8.5 out of 10. It is definitely a solid movie, a fun movie that I'd happily rewatch again and again. I've seen it a couple of times already, and I'd happily sit back and go back and watch it if I was doing another Mario binge. But that is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, we've got one more movie to talk about on this list, and this is the most interesting one, I think, of the lot, because it's the most recent one, and my opinions have sort of changed over time on this movie. So sit back, relax, as we now jump over to 2026 and talk about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Finally, in this movie franchise discussion, we have the most recent one, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which when I went to the cinema, and I did show this off in my movie review, I did get the gigantic Yoshi popcorn bucket, where you can fill up your Yoshi with popcorn, which is a fantastic piece of merchandise. He's so big, I love him so much. But yeah, I definitely recommend if you can, you might have to go online to get it now, or travel to your local cinemas and see if it's still available. Definitely a fantastic piece, and I love that they introduced my boy Yoshi at the end of the last movie. But in terms of the movie itself, like I said, it has come out to quite mixed acclaim. I've never seen such a dramatic split on a movie where the previous movie was so massively beloved. Like, I know you've had movies like Joker and then Joker Folie à Deux, where the movie went from being critically acclaimed, winning awards, best movie ever, to literally being absolute garbage and hot trash. But this one is so weird because you've got a critically acclaimed movie which has done really, really well at the box office. People love it, which is why a sequel came out. But then you've got the sequel, which has literally got a 50-50 split. There's some people who are saying it's the best movie ever made, and then there's other people saying that it's an absolute travesty and that this could kill off the Nintendo universe or whatever they want to do, or will we actually get more Mario movies now? And I don't think it's quite that extreme, if I'm honest, but I will admit, upon reflection, there is a few things that I do need to pull up the movie on, but I still actually quite enjoyed it. Yeah, sure, it's not the best movie. Did I enjoy it as much as the first movie? No, I still think I prefer the original. But would I say it's like really, really bad? Not really. But I digress. Let's jump into it. So we've got the second movie, which came out on April Fool's Day, so April 1st, 2026, and had a runtime of 98 minutes, or an hour and 38 minutes. So longer than the first movie, but shorter than the original 1993 movie. So this is your middle ground tier. It had a budget of 110 million, so it had 10 million more than the original movie. So they had a slightly bigger budget this time round, which they kind of needed since they were going off Galaxy. And so far, at the time of recording this video, has made about $460 million. Obviously, that could go up over time, and I'm sure it will. So it's not as big a dramatic change as the original movie had. So I'm fairly certain that one, by the 2-3 week mark, had done way better than that. I could be wrong, mind. But it's done well, but it's not done as well as the original. But it has done really well. And what's the plot of this one? Well, after the defeat of Bowser, they've trapped him now using a tiny miniature mushroom to shrink him down and trap his little castle inside Peach's castle. After his plot to marry Princess Peach was foiled, the plumbers now face off against Bowser Jr., which is Bowser's son, who has come to seek revenge to sort of regain the Bowser legacy, make the Bowser family on top again, take over the universe, destroy the universe, sort of teach those who made fun of them that they can't mess with the Bowser name. He wants to rescue his father. And to do that, he captures Princess Rosalina and uses her powers to power up a new weapon on a new planet that he's built in his father's name. And so Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, and new friend Yoshi go traveling the galaxy in order to rescue Princess Rosalina, who we discover is actually the sister of Peach. And then to obviously stop Bowser Jr.'s plan and stop Bowser joining in on said plan. And they introduced so many other characters from different Nintendo games and properties that it made people think that is a Super Smash Bros. Movie in the works. I know that idea has kind of been shut down at the moment and they're not doing any plans for it anytime soon, but you can't deny that there's definitely some cogs working in the background that they might do one in the future. So I'm not ruling it completely out yet, but I know it's definitely going to be on the back burner for a little while they introduce some new characters for different movies. So some of the positives and negatives in terms of this Mario movie. Again, visually and the animation style is just as gorgeous, if not actually probably more gorgeous than the original movie, especially the cosmic atmosphere you get from traveling through space, using the Lumas, traveling the galaxy, the different planets. I definitely think they do a fantastic job there. And like I said, it is probably better than the original Super Mario Bros. Movie in that regard. The music from composer Brian Tyler is absolutely amazing. The galaxy music references, it's definitely superior to the first one in that regard, I think, as well. There are some things that I think Galaxy did do better, but there is things that I think the original has done better too. But yeah, fantastic. Like I said, great action set pieces. I think some of the fight scenes between Mario, Luigi and Bowser Jr. were great. The final fight between Bowser Jr., Dry Bowser, when Bowser falls into the lava, a little homage to the original games when Mario would defeat Bowser and he'd fall through the floor and go into the lava. I thought that was a really interesting fight scene. Seeing Princess Rosalina using her powers was nice. The way Yoshi would stick out his tongue and eat like ching chomps and stuff like that, I thought was good. The use of like fire flowers and the cloud flowers and stuff, the different power-ups from Galaxy and all sorts was really nice. Good variety. The voice acting, again, was great. I think Benny Safdie as Bowser Jr. was absolutely fantastic and nowhere near as annoying as I thought he would be. And Donald Glover as my boy Yoshi is just absolutely amazing. And it is packed full of Easter eggs and fan service, like cameos such as you've got obviously the introduction of Daisy at the end of this movie, who's going to obviously come into the third movie. You've got obviously other Nintendo characters. You've got like Pikmin in this. You've got Rob the Robot. You've got Mr. Game & Watch. And in particular, you have got Fox McCloud, who is played by Glenn Powell. Absolutely fantastic. And Fox is actually in the last probably about 45 minutes of the movie. He's in it quite a lot, which really got people talking about a potential future movie, whether it's a Star Fox movie or they're going to set up a Smash Brothers movie. But yeah, I thought that was really, really nice. But in terms of weaker elements of the movie, again, I will say that the plot is quite thin. And I don't know what it is about these Super Mario Bros. Movies, but they just struggle to do a plot. It's a very generic plot. And I do find it does derail at times, especially when they're trying to do different character arcs. Like Bowser's supposed to be going through this arc where he turns good, which they start to develop in a good way, but they sort of change him back to being evil too quickly, and so it doesn't feel earned. It just feels a bit cheap. So I don't think they really handled it in the best way, whereas they started off really, really good. I feel like even though there was lots of great Easter eggs, there was, I think, too many references to the point where it just felt like just a glorified trip down memory lane as opposed to an actual fresh new movie that both old fans and new fans can enjoy. Pacing was all over the place. Sometimes it felt really, really quick to get to certain scenes. Sometimes scenes dragged way too much. Emotional moments either went on for too long or too little. I just think, yeah, it was a bit... And I just felt, again, character development was not good enough. And especially characters like Peach, you're trying to delve into Peach's past, where she feels like she doesn't belong, or she wants to know about her family. She finds that she has a sister. They really could have used that a lot in the plot going forward, where she was desperate to save her sister. But you don't see that. She goes on the adventure to save Rosalina, but she doesn't really have many heart-to-heart moments with her and have conversations. So I just think, again, wasted potential there, which is just such a shame. And it then leaves characters like Mario and Luigi in the dust. And then Yoshi, who was bigged up massively in all the trailers and at the end of the last movie, he starts off really strong, but then also gets left in the dust towards the end of the movie, which is a shame. So yeah, it is just, I don't know, there's just a bit of wasted potential in this movie. Is it a bad movie? I don't think it's as bad as what people are making it out to be, but is it the masterpiece and best Mario movie of all time? I also don't think so. I think since I rated the first one an 8.5, and the Super Mario Brothers original movie is 6 to a 6.5. I think I'm going to meet in the middle, and I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Nothing spectacular, but also nothing out of this world, pardon the pun, outstanding. 6.5 if I'm being harsh, but probably about a 7. But that is going to be it of my, not my ranking, but my franchise discussion for the Mario movies. Now, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up and comment down below. Is there any other movie franchises or even game franchises you would like me to discuss on this channel? Feel free to leave those comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it by giving it a thumbs up. And subscribe if you are new. But for now, this is the Nerdy Grill signing off. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.